All right. So this is essentially like the reason I want to have this call is because again, I do think that GameStop is going to do just like literally we were talking about 15 seconds ago about how Bitcoin has these like fantastic moves at a certain point, but they all happen in a very short period of time, and people forget what happened 4 years later, and it does the same thing over and over. GameStop is following some type of pattern too. Like it's following a similar pattern to where it's really kind of contingent on the debt cycles and a lot of delivery cycles for different stocks based on the rules of the stock market and what the SEC lays out. So I'm just gonna try to like look at those patterns a little bit, and I guess I should say before I even get started, I think that this week probably will be the week just based on several factors that range from social media to the data that's popping up to just again the historical patterns that happened. Roaring Kitty, when this whole GameStop thing popped off a year ago, that was May 12th, and today is May 11th. So I'm assuming he actually may come back tonight. That's kind of like the thing. And then like, tomorrow I think we could see some pretty crazy price action going into the next 3 days. Um, but yeah, we'll see. Let me see if I can share my screen real quick. Uh,
I'm also pulling up Thinkorswim to do some technical analysis too.
yeah, that's actually what I'm going to start with is TA. So with I'm going to show you like the kind of pattern that I'm talking about for GameStop because like if you just do TA on GameStop, it's not going to make a ton of sense. But then when you put everything together and like you kind of look behind the curtain a little bit, it makes more sense in my opinion. So let me remove these lines real quick. So some of the lines at least. So GameStop had historically had a few key spikes. I told you like a year ago, like it kind of went off. So it's like, over here you see nothing, nothing, nothing. Then like it goes from what was this down here? This is like $1.88. Well, actually, I'm sorry, this is 2021. So this is what happened in 2021. It went from like a dollar somewhere below a dollar. I think it got to like 90 something cents over here. Let's see. How far did it go down? Way down here at the bottom. The hell. Way down here at the bottom. It got down to about a dollar, like 90 something cents. Yes, 60 cents. It went from 60 cents to $121 overnight. Like those are crypto numbers. That's like literally 100x plus overnight. So I think you might have heard people talk about like GameStop back then, but like it was really a spectacular thing. So it ends up going up, and this is about 4 years ago. It's 2021, and it ends up coming down, and bottoms out for whatever period, and then it just kind of kept making waves, like almost as if there was some type of cycle happening, and just kind of trailed off. But they were selling it off. You finally get to last year, so this is 4/15/2024. So this whole trend lasted for about 4 years. Well, at this point, it would have been about 3 years, from 2021 all the way to 2024. So that's about 3 years, a little over 3 years. And then Roaring Kitty comes back somewhere around here. You see this uptrend. He actually came back on the 12th. Yeah, it was the 12th, the Sunday the 12th last year, whatever day it was. This week, this is what this big candle is. So it went up to $65. So it went from like 18 to 65, which is still like a 5x overnight, which tends to not happen too much in the stock market, especially in these type of conditions, right? Like because last year wasn't a fantastic year for the stock market. It was okay, but not great. But yeah, you just saw this big candle coming out of nowhere, and it was like why does it move so much? Just based off of one tweet, but it wasn't just like the tweet. There were kind of again cycles that were playing out. Um, if you kind of listen to me talk a little bit, I kind of say that there have been there's a short squeeze essentially. Like there's some type of short squeeze that I'm looking for. And actually I can get rid of that because I do have this line here. You see like price after he came back, it's just been kind of squeezed into this area. Like why did it just happen one time and then that was it? Well, really what was happening is like price was just squeezing this entire time because like there was a lot of sell pressure, but there was also a lot of buy pressure. The problem is with this one, with GameStop, pretty much all the float is gone. The reason that I think this is going to be so explosive is because like they've done this thing called naked short selling, where they are either legitimately or synthetically selling stocks that they don't have. So it's like with naked short selling, you can technically sell something that you don't have, but you just have to deliver on it. But somehow they found all these types of loopholes to where they're not delivering, and that presents other problems. I'll show you some charts later. Um, but it creates this loophole to where like you can basically sell something that you don't have, and you can just keep doing it over and over and over again and never deliver, which it's illegal, but they're kind of working through that at this point. The problem is eventually there are actually some legal delivery cycles that happen. So one of these, I think this was one of them. This was another one of them back here somewhere. There was, a lot of shares were bought over here, and then they actually got delivered around this time. So I'm looking more so at delivery. The reason I said earlier you probably wouldn't understand this, even if you just looked at the charts, is because, like, again, there's kind of some background that goes into it, and kind of like understanding like what the laws are and when stuff has to be settled, when it has to be delivered, all that type of stuff. So what I'm saying is you should see one probably, if not next week, somewhere in the near future, essentially. But I do believe that it's going to be next week, this upcoming week, I should say. Let me see, where's I going to go with that? So yeah, at this point, and then we'll look at one more thing. We'll look at volume too, actually. Volume. The thing that I look at with volume is, and if I could turn these things off, I do not want to see these. No. Anyway, I think we can kind of see it pretty much. So there's like no, I actually do want to turn that off. What are the more settings, events? Yeah, we don't need that. Get away. If you look at this, you see like there was a lot of volume around the time when this is a weekly chart again though, right? So each one of these candles is a week. On the week that led up to and following Roaring Kitty, there were a lot of this first tweet and the live stream and the earnings report and all this stuff. There was a lot of hype around it. The same thing is happening this year, where you have probably him coming back somewhere in the near future, and the upcoming earnings report, the upcoming shareholders meeting, which is going to be the same day as MicroStrategy and their shareholders meeting, this impending Bitcoin announcement, and like I said, impending Roaring Kitty coming back. At this point, it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of potential catalysts that you could have something like this, to where it just shoots off for a second and like keeps on going. It's and the reason, like I said earlier, they like the central premise is here that like there's not really that much actual liquid float that's available. This stock is very illiquid. So when you see stuff to where it's like they have borrowed everything and there's nothing left on the market, price can move very fast. And that's the same thing that happened there. It's the same thing that happened here. If a whole bunch of people buy all at once, then price has to it appreciates with it. So after a certain settlement period. So one thing that I was looking at, with the one thing that I was talking about with volume earlier, is I just look at where the peaks are, like, because the peaks are important. So here, this is like 324 of last year. You see this kind of, it's stuff's kind of flat, and then you see like this little bump here, like you kind of wonder what that is. And then you see suddenly, all right, well, Roaring Kitty has come back. So you have like the delivery period. So the delivery period is about 35 days. So that's 5 weeks. So from here, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. So now things start to picking up very, very quickly. Then he ends up coming back, and like things like shoot off because again, they had to deliver the stocks in 35 days. Plus you got the hype of this guy who's been gone for 3 years, and now he comes back, who he was like the central GameStop character pretty much. And then, so we see that volume period. And then we see things kind of like quiet down a little bit. But then, like, out of nowhere, you see like this big red candle, like this big red volume candle, the biggest one since like really a long time outside of this event right here, ends up popping off. And then like that was the GameStop announcement where they said, okay, we're going to consider buying Bitcoin and all this type of stuff. So you see a lot of volume there. And you start to see some weird price activity around here, like you see these huge candles and then like these really tiny candles. What ended up happening, there's again, a lot of people ended up funneling into Bitcoin at this point. And then so you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 5 weeks, and then like now this is coming into like the 6th week and whatnot. And I think there's like some ways that they can kind of delay it a little bit. But again, you have the 35 days, and then plus again, I do believe that you will see a Roaring Kitty tweet somewhere in the near future. Just again, this is like the 1 year anniversary essentially. So there's some other kind of hidden patterns within his tweets, and that's really kind of one of the things too. Like there's a method to the madness, I would say. None of it is random. Like none of his tweets are random. None of Ryan Cohen's tweets are random. There's usually something below the surface that they're trying to communicate pretty much. Because it's not like they can just like come out and say like, oh, well, yeah, buy GameStop or whatnot, because that would be manipulation. But this is it's almost like a riddle of sorts, but you're just kind of trying to follow the pattern essentially. But again, like I said, slowly than all at once. I think you should see like some type of monster candle in the near future. And basically, the strategy here is it's going to be twofold, right? So I think you're going to see an initial spike, and then you want to take profits over the coming days, pretty much. Whenever that spike happens, or whenever you see some type of crazy gap like this, I'm going to start taking profits on that day and the following day and the following day. Maybe like 30%, 30%, 30%, and then maybe save a runner. Then what I'll end up doing is, I think it will end up coming back down one more time. And then you'll probably have a secondary like wave and run up. Like I said, back here, you saw the series of like waves and kind of runs up. So you'll end up playing that pattern out one more time. So it'll run up one more time, I think. And basically after you've taken profits here, you just go in one more time around this area. And then like you, again, very quickly take profits as it starts to go up pretty quickly. At that point, really you just kind of let it sail into the sunset. So, take profits here, take profits here. This is what I'm doing, at least. Again, not financial advice, but this is what I'm doing essentially, to where I think it's going to be a multifold wave. So it's going to come up very fast. It's going to go back down, come up again. Like it did here. So it's like you see those first wave, second wave, and then like, kind of these preceding waves. Same thing happened here. To where you had a first initial wave, this huge one, and then a kind of a smaller wave and a smaller wave, but you can kind of compound pretty quickly over the coming months of June. Just because, again, like you take these profits up here very quickly, like these huge multi-X profits, you come down, maybe you load up one more time, you go up here, just like that. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And just kind of trying to see that play out pretty much. So it should be interesting at this point. I will say that back here in 2021, the hedge funds, who are the primary people who are doing the short selling, and these institutions and whatnot, they were in much better financial conditions back then. Because like it's weird to say, because we were coming off of COVID, but again, we printed trillions and trillions of dollars over the course of this time. And they had a lot of ammunition to be able to sell it to the short side, because like there are fees that it takes to be able to borrow a stock and sell it that come along with shorting, because you're technically borrowing a stock, selling it, which creates sell pressure and does all this other stuff. But there's a cost to buy, especially when you're buying thousands and thousands of stocks at a time. It just costs. So that's kind of like, that's my strategy at this point. So like I said, whenever that happens, and I think it could be soon, we'll just start to taking profits in the coming days and just let it run to wherever it needs to run to. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth as to why some of the other data that I'm looking at, in terms of why I think that it's going to be pretty soon, because you're starting to see numbers that you haven't seen since the last GameStop event. So let's see if I can hide for the media control. So I'll start with, I was just talking about borrowing, right? And like what the cost is. So this is just like a chart, it's chartexchange.com. They have a lot of different charts that you can look at for every different stock out there. And I think probably some crypto too, but I definitely want to look at stocks. So right now we're looking at GameStop. This is one of these tabs, the shorts. So borrow fee. I want to look at what happens with the borrow fees. So there's a cost to borrow. It's some type of percentage, some type of APR. And you see at certain points, it starts to spike. So we see that it spiked. You would say it's pretty flat here. and then it starts to spike around 327. Well, 327 was when a lot of those buys came in from the Bitcoin announcement that happened on the 25th or the 26th. That Q4 earnings report where they really, smashed it and like kind of knocked the expectations out of the water. They had a great Q4, and people had to borrow a lot of Bitcoin in the coming days. So it really almost quadrupled overnight. The cost to borrow are pretty much quadrupled. So let's go back even farther. It's 24. We see over here, it was still pretty flat for the most part. But then in 2024, when Roaring Kitty comes back and everything, it just starts to skyrocket out of nowhere. It goes all the way up to 22%, 22% to borrow, down from like less than 2%. So that's a 10x overnight in the cost to borrow. So most businesses can't handle a 10x swing in their expenses, especially if they have some type of large position on it. That gets expensive very fast, very fast. Let's go out here.
A quick question. So this borrow fee, this is basically just a fee to borrow to short, or are there other reasons to?
Yeah. There are other reasons to borrow, because if you want to, the only reason you would really borrow something is to short it, I would think, because that's the whole premise of shorting. You borrow a stock, you sell it, and then you are assuming that the price is going to go down. So then if you're right, okay, the price has gone down. So now I have this cash that I'm sitting on. I can buy it cheaper. And then so I profit off of the difference between where it was. So that's kind of where shorting is. And that's the reason that the borrow rate is important, because realistically there is some cost to borrow. You can't just do it for free, essentially. So yeah. Let me see what this is. This is 2020. This is the GameStop borrow rate that shot up pretty. This is 2021. It didn't shoot up as much. This orange line, it went from bars over here to this orange line. The orange line is the actual borrow rate at this point. So it shot up, and that went to I think 80%. Let me zoom in there. That borrow rate, yeah, it went up to 80% in 2021, which is right here. Yeah, 80%. So that's huge. That's massive, especially considering it was 10%. So anytime you see these 8 to 10x spikes, that is a telltale sign that something big is about to happen. Like I said, GameStop's Q4 earnings was huge. That was a big event. They've made some real headlines, especially with this now Bitcoin announcement. They've gotten the interest of the Bitcoin community, and I think that's why one of the cool things is now it's two very diamond-handed communities come together, and yeah, we'll see. So there's one more borrow rate that I do want to look at. This is called XRT. So this is they break the S&P down into different sectors. So this is the S&P for the retail sector. It's an ETF. So they take several different stocks. I think they're equally weighted, and they rebalance it every, I think, quarter. It's an ETF essentially. It's equally weighted, like I said, but it holds GameStop. GameStop is one of the components of this. So what some of these people who are shorting it will do is they will essentially borrow XRT, and then they will sell it and get the component parts from the ETF, and then use that to short GameStop. And sell GameStop and create some type of synthetic artificial sell pressure. So I'm going to look at the borrow fees for that. And again, there's a ton of stuff here. There's no way I can get through it in 30 minutes. I was talking to Trav the other day. It would probably take a solid 3 videos, but I'm trying to give an overview at this point. So with XRT, the borrow fee, the reason I'm a little bit confident now is because it started to see these crazy bumps too. Same way I told you, people are borrowing the stock to short GameStop kind of synthetically. So again, for all this time down here, it's roughly a little, between 1 and 1.5% to short it, or to borrow it at least. But then suddenly out of nowhere, the other couple of days, it just jumps up. At the beginning of May, it jumped up to 6%, over 6%, about 5% here. So you see, it's okay, well, something's happening here. I don't know what, but something's happening. and then let's go back a little bit. We'll zoom out and see. All right, well, was there any other period where something like this happened? And you see, like for a while, not really, not really, not really, not even when Roaring Kitty came back. Like, so even back then, what was this? Yeah, 524. So this would have been the time period. This would have been when he came back last year, but there was, not too much. We did see the GameStop borrow fee go off, but the time where it did actually go that high was 2021. So if I look at this, let me remove this and let's only look at this. So this orange line is the borrow fee. So the last time that the borrow fee went this high was in 2021. And what happened around this time? So this is 1/27/2021. GameStop hit a peak on the 28th. So we saw like this huge spike in borrow fees, and that went up to about 8.5%. So what I'm seeing here, and what I'm saying essentially, is that since we saw something this big, we can probably just do it for the week. That's a little bit cleaner. So we see that essentially, like, this is I don't really know what happened in 2022. I genuinely don't know why this was this high at this point. And maybe that's something with the data. But what I am seeing is, all right, well, on the anniversary of here, we just had a massive spike for the GameStop borrow fee or XRT borrow fee, and another one here. So like that gives you a little bit of confidence that things are happening there too. Just because if something becomes expensive to borrow, that means there's not a lot of it. Let me see. Oh, and that's the other thing you can see. I mean, you can literally see it in real time too. So this is the borrow fees. So it says like 750,000 of this stock is available to borrow, but you see sometimes it dips down to almost nothing, like 50,000 from 700 or from 400,000. We can go down here; it'll show you even more. And that's the thing. I try to stick to the data and see like what's actually here. So you'll see sometimes periodically it'll go from like 400,000 to 55. So it almost goes to zero relatively. It's just not a lot left to borrow. So let's see what happened. That one where it just really tanked. Yeah, like right, it went to zero. So 5-1. It went from 100,000 to 85,000 to just, hey, there's none left to borrow. So at that point, stuff has to kind of shake, and then like the system kind of flips upside down. So that's one of my big keys that this is going to happen pretty soon, whatever it is, however high price goes. I'm not going to go into the whole like social media kind of riddles and whatnot that they're putting out, because like there is a lot of that, and I think that's well beyond the scope of this video. But I will say that a lot of those are aligning with 512 as well, which 511, 512, we'll see. Actually, let's see. Like it's 7:00. Did he? I will just check this real quick to see if. Okay, apparently I'm not verified. Let's look. The January 22nd. That was and this is the only one I'm going to talk about. This was the last time that he tweeted. That was approximately 109 days ago. 109 is an important number in this whole sequence. I mean, as we can see from this one, the time thing, 109, this I think signified 109 days, but 109 also is 69 seconds actually. So 69, 420, 420 was a big hype date, but I think the real date actually is in May. I think this signified like a period of things coming to an end. And then also like, a period of high volume as well, which is like, what you want to see with price and whatnot. Yeah, so it's one of those things where a lot of different like kind of hints have been dropped over time, even going all the way back to here. So I mean, going back to May and June and whatnot, like there have been hints that go back to like 2020. It's crazy. Like this is a rabbit hole that's deeper than anything that I've seen financially, at least. But it's been cool. So that's kind of my thesis. I do think that this one is actually going to be bigger than 2021, which is crazy to say because like this one went 100x at least. But again, it was coming down from $1 versus like 27. So it's 27 times higher than this first one. So it's probably not going to go 100x. But I do think it'll go to multi-$100 valuation. So I'm talking like 2, 3, 400. Maybe not on the first move, but the second move, I think it actually might go higher this time. Just because, again, kind of like what I was saying earlier, there was a lot. The conditions sucked though. Well, actually, they were much better because like you came off of COVID and whatnot. And they printed trillions of dollars. So like there was a lot more ammunition over here. Well, now again, things kind of suck. So they have a lot less reins on it to be able to hold in than they did over there. So if we saw that, all these borrow fees are spiking and there's not a lot of the stock left, and sometimes the amount that's available to borrow goes to zero, well, that means it's in a liquid stock. And if you have a shock to that type of system, like some type of hype thing, like Roaring Kitty coming back, or GameStop announcing that they have actually bought billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, or I think there's a big thing going on behind the scenes with, I think, some type of merger and acquisition that they're talking about. And there's like legal court cases that are held up in that. So it's a lot, like I said, a lot of moving parts, but any type of catalyst, and I try to use that word a lot, is catalyst, because the catalyst is just something that kicks off a reaction and makes it proceed in a very rapid manner. Any type of catalyst at this point could send this thing flying to like ridiculous numbers. And so that's why I said like I'll be taking profits pretty quickly as it starts to get up into these higher numbers. Just because this isn't something that's going to be like a delayed multi-month thing. This is going to be over the course of a couple weeks, couple days. And weirdly enough, like it's a lot of this, I was talking about like settlement periods earlier. If you look at historically GameStop's price appreciation between May and June over the last 4 years, we can do that. We can do that right now. You have seen like pretty much crazy numbers from the run up from like May to, if you look at May to the end of June, maybe, or whatever the peaks were during that period. So from May to the end of June, well, from this peak was like 300%. Yeah, I mean that's a 300% run pretty much. To that point, we see it just kind of leveled out at that same level that started off with. May to June of, what is this? What is 2023? Yeah, so May is right here to June. It wasn't nearly as big of a move, but that's still like a 45% move. Pretty good. And then you go from 2022, this is the end of May. Well, May started about right here. It did drop a little bit. So from May to the end of June went through about here. So it's 25%. Again, you tend not to see that in stocks, like not for any sustained amount of period, but what happened in 2021? Oh yeah, that was great. Like from May to here, that was 109%. So we saw like, again, like the May to June of this one, of the first one, you had the major run up, then multi-successive waves. I think you'll have this, first wave, second wave, third wave, and after this, but I think it kind of depends on the size of the first wave too, because like if the first wave is just gigantic, okay, well then the second room has more, second, third waves have like more to do with that. So again, I try not to say speculation just because of the fact that, I mean, we're looking at the data, we're looking at the charts, and we're making theses pretty much based on what we can see. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. I think I said this would be about 30 minutes, and I think I'm probably right at about 30 minutes. Overall, the overall thesis is pretty much, hey, this thing is a liquid. This thing moves in cycles of settlement. So again, people have to settle at a certain time, usually about 35 days. Whatever event happens, it's going to be quick, and it's going to be it's going to go up. It's probably going to come back down, and then it'll probably have a couple waves after that. So taking profit pretty quickly once you start seeing it in the hundreds and whatnot. There are people saying that it could potentially go up into like the 400-600s too, and that's I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility either. Just because, again, like I said, worse conditions now. Trump knows about, like, even with all the tariffs and whatnot, Trump is well aware of like this whole naked short selling thing. Which actually, if you really read deep into like what naked short selling does, it's pretty dangerous financially. It just because again, what it's unfair, number one, because like they can do this to any stock and it just ends up robbing people who, they can create artificial sell pressure and hold a stock's price down. When you're putting money into it on your side, you can't do that. You can't do that on the buy side. So again, it's illegal. Trump is well aware of it because they've done it to his stock. They've done it to Elon's Tesla and whatnot. They've done it to MicroStrategy. It's just like Wall Street trickery, pretty much, but it doesn't always go their way. So yeah, that's really why I'm thinking we're going to see some like fantastic movement in the near future here. So we'll see. We'll see, y'all. So I know that was a lot in 20-30 minutes, but any questions on this or any thoughts?
Yeah, quick question. This is more so just kind of following up. Are you still big on the like GME on base, or is there any other kind of like just
Yeah.
GameStop plays, crypto related that you're either looking at or looking to put more capital into or anything like that, I guess?
So I spread it. Yeah, no, and that's a good question too, because and the answer is yes. It's only three things, right? So I'm a little into options. I know Taufik does options and whatnot too.
Yeah, I can share after you're done.
Yeah, yeah. So I've got May options because again, I do think that I think it'll probably happen this week, but also June 20th options. At least like $55 and up. I think you'll probably get a reasonable price point. You can either do at the money, which is going to be more expensive, so like $27 at this point for a strike price, or I think anything 55 and above is great if depending on what your risk parameters are. But the higher your strike price on a call, the cheaper the option generally is. Well, I should say the more out the money. But yeah, so like I said, I got options. You can straight up buy the stock, but again, you're not going to get nearly as much leverage if you don't do that. If you're just buying the stock. But yeah. And then the only other ones I have really, I have all these up here, but the only other ones that I have are GameStop on base, GME on base, and Buck GME mascot.
Okay.
I think actually I don't have it, but I'm willing to. I mean, GameStop, GME Sol, and GME on Ethereum, those will probably do well as well. I think any of these, some of these other ones, like they'll probably pump, but like they won't. Like if I'm looking at what's the best one on each blockchain, okay, on base, it's no competition that it's going to be GME on base. Ethereum, this is the only one I would consider. GameStop on Sol. This is going to be the big one because it's the name. It's for the namesake because it's the only one. It was the original, and you see, it was made a year ago. All of these are pretty much a year ago at this point. And Buck is the GME mascot. So any of those, whichever one you're most comfortable with, like I said, I'm in these two, but you really can't go wrong. I just like to concentrate a little bit more on a few things than to super spread my money out, especially if I know that stuff's gonna take off. But we'll see. Yeah, those are my real ones. But I just kind of watch this whole thing because anytime that something happens here, anytime that something happens with GameStop, all of these light up because they're all related to GameStop. But yeah, like I said, those are the best ones that I think I have for crypto at least. And really, those are the only ones that I ever made YouTube videos for. Was GameStop on base. I made a video for Buck, and then I made a video for just like GameStop overall. So yeah. You said Taufik you wanted to talk about options a little bit?
Yeah, I can. Before I jump in though, just again, really impressed by like the way like you analyze a lot of these like tokens and specifically GME and just the economic factors, the macro thesis, like just the different things like flow, borrowing rate. Like I'm always impressed by that. So appreciate you sharing those.
Yeah.
I agree with most of everything you said. So it's a lot of things I'm learning as well about like these borrowing rates. For me specifically, I did get in on GameStop call. I think this was back in like April or March, but it did trigger my stop loss. I got off like 30% loss. So I'm marking and I have looking at your charts is very similar to mine. So I do have some supply zones and demand zones that I'm watching. I am hopeful again. So I have similar micro thesis. But again, I'm just waiting for confirmation to either get in on a call or to even short. So for me, I'm curious to know like what is yours confirmation signals for entry? Because I'm also watching for those levels and I have alerts set and things like that. Then once you answer that, then jump into like my option plays specifically for crypto related stocks.
Yeah, and so like when you say entry, this one's a little bit different. I'll tell you, I haven't done this strategy before, but my whole, I think it was back in February, and I was willing to, I was willing to take some losses on the strategy initially, or really until it played out. But I started buying like short dated options, really like maybe a month out or so, a couple weeks or a month out. And my whole thing was, all right, well, I think that this is going to go off pretty hard. So it's like whenever it does, like I can what did I buy? I bought out the money short dated contracts, so they're cheap. Like they're pretty cheap at that point. And I'm going to keep doing that literally until it ends up going off. So maybe a couple hundred a week or whatever is what I'm putting in. But really, my stop loss at that point is no stop loss. It's just the expiration date. I'm willing to let those expire because again, you're just kind of rolling the wheel. And you can roll your contracts into better contracts and whatnot over time just to accumulate. But I really at this point I'm looking more so for an exit signal than I am for an entry signal, if I'm being honest with you. And my exit signal is just going to be like just like what I was talking about on the charts. Like once you start to see that ridiculous price action to where it's been $27 for almost 4 weeks at this point. So if you see something hop off to like 100, it's probably going to have one or two more pumps and then sell, or maybe sell on that first pump, sell some more on that second pump, sell some more on that third pump. And if you want to get really spicy on that third pump, you can get a put, like a pretty close dated put, and then just let it ride down. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. But also, I don't know. Like this is truly one of those ones I'm going to play it by ear. And just like, on the day of, whenever it happens, I'm going to be glued to the 15-minute chart and just see where it goes. But yeah, like I said, I'm holding these calls and I'm rolling the calls until it happens, which I think will probably be May. Based on historical data, it looks like May and June is a pretty good month. Plus all the other factors that we were talking about. So yeah, we'll hit those and then we'll keep rolling.
Got it. That makes sense. And I appreciate it. And again, just preface, I have a very different trading style, so I approach things slightly differently. But like a lot of times, like things overlap. So I can kind of like do like a quick crash course on like my options plays and this crypto stuff. I'm most focused on. So let's see. Am I able to share my screen?
I think you should. Or let me see. I might have to let everybody. All right, you should be able to now.
Perfect. I'll just do like a quick. All right, perfect. So I will touch on. Okay, is my screen sharing? Okay, perfect. Can y'all see my screen? Okay, so this is basically Thinkorswim. I mainly use this to trade. Before I even jump into the charts, I'll just kind of go over my perspective. So this is like the notes that I put together. So I have a short list of 20 top stocks that I focus on, or like I'm focusing on adding on a bi-weekly basis. Within these, there's a subset for crypto exposure specifically. The main ones to highlight are GBTC and IBIT. Those are the two biggest Bitcoin ETFs. The reason why I really like these ones is one, they have the highest volume of inflow. They're really well managed by financial institutions like Grayscale. I can't remember who runs the IBIT one. And these are the top two that I think financial advisors are going to pitch towards people saying, hey, if you want exposure in your 401k, buy these ones. And I've been seeing it so far. Like even if you look at the charts, they've been doing very well, especially in relation to Bitcoin. So that's one subset of crypto stocks, which is ETFs. And there's a bunch of ETFs popping up here and there around different stocks. Other ones I really like are ETHE. There's another one that's a 2x leverage one for Ethereum, which I might actually make trades off of this week because of how Ethereum has been violently moving. It's called ETU. It's very dangerous, not financial advice, but it's just, hey, let me just capture as much move of this. That's ETEU and ETHE. So that's the first set of crypto stocks that I focus on. The second one is platforms. The only one I really know that's available right now publicly is Robinhood. Sorry, Coinbase and technically Robinhood, but I don't really invest in Robinhood for that reason. So Coinbase, really strong strategy. The only reason I like this one is because they do whatever it takes to make sure that they don't go bankrupt. A lot of platforms, they just give away, they just do as much, like profit as much. Coinbase makes very intentional decisions to not put themselves at risk of liquidation, solvency, bankruptcy, etc. To the point where they say, hey, they're not actually going to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet and things like that. They'll rather just focus on, hey, making sure that people are safe. I think that's one reason why a lot of financial institutions trust them as their custodial services. So I think Coinbase is huge trajection for the same reason that Chris is interested in it. Is I think they're making some of the biggest innovations in crypto in terms of making it regulated and just offerings towards users, and its easiest onboarding experience for newcomers. Another thing I really like about Coinbase is, again, they just bought that Deribit platform. I don't know the full-on implications, but when I read up on it, it seemed like it was bullish for the stock. So that's not what I'm really interested in. Robinhood technically semi-related, but I don't really trade Robinhood for that reason. I just love what they're doing on the stock options and futures side of things, and the bettings and event predictions aspect. Let's see which other ones. Tesla technically too, they have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, so maybe that's part of the reason I'm in them as well. But those are kind of the ones I focus on. There's also mining companies. So mining companies, my favorite ones are Marathon Digital and Riot Blockchain. So the key thing to pay attention to with these two is that they do. It's weird. How do I explain it? So they move slightly differently in relation to Bitcoin. So at different times, I might trade one more than the other. I used to like Marathon a lot more, but recently Riot's been moving more in tandem with Bitcoin. So right now I'm in an options call contract on Riot, and I'm not doing Marathon. Slowly, I think over the last week, that's slightly changed to favor Marathon more. So I might get out of Riot and get into Marathon, or just hold my Riot and then get some Marathon calls. But those are kind of like the main subsets. XYZ, that's the new ticker symbol for Block, which owns Square and all the different stuff. So Cash App falls into that, and how you can buy crypto there. That's one reason why I really like that stock as well. They've also been becoming more active in terms of posting innovations, being more strict about how they run the company. So I think this is bullish, and the setup that I see on their chart is positive. So I'm looking at that too. But yeah, that's a kind of summary of like the stocks I'm buying and holding for the long run for these ones, with it relation to crypto. Now, when we go over to options plays, so like these are all the plays I'm in right now. Out of these, I think I'll say 3 of them are crypto related. I'll actually just switch over here. Let's see, monitor. So if you switch, I can't zoom in, but the main ones I'm in right now are Riot. So I have an options call on Riot. I expect that to run up this week in relation to it. Right now I'm up on it. What key levels I'm watching is this 200 moving average here around the 9.5. There I might start looking at, okay, scaling out of it. But if it's moving correctly, because again, it's still far away from the 70 oversold RSI, and it has a low implied volatility. This means there's a lot of more opportunity for the contract itself to run. And then potentially I might fully get out between this $13 to $15 range where it's kind of pushed back against. And then I might consider switching. Another one I'm in on is Coinbase. So Coinbase I'm currently down on Coinbase, but again, this doesn't go out till, oh no, this is actually going out soon. So I'm gonna watch this carefully to either cut or double down on to make a quick move here. So with Coinbase, let's see. I'm watching these key levels either as resistances here. Similarly, it's approaching its 200 moving average, and typically when it moves up there, it can reject quickly. And again, the implied velocity has gone off the cliff, which probably explains why my contract is down, even though the stock has consolidated. Because again, with options, the more you hold a stock, it affected by at least four different vectors. The first one is time decay. So the longer you hold it, if it's consolidating, you lose money each day. The second thing is implied volatility. You see this kind of fell off the cliff here. So that's probably the reason why it's still down like 20. On my Coinbase contract is down 20%, even though it's not moved much over the past 2 weeks. So I'm watching that one carefully. I'm hoping it can break above, and then I can either close out for even a small profit, but I'm actually just sell that one and then get into a longer dated option, and go from there. Let's see which other one is there.
So the thing with Coinbase, and I like all the ones that you've named. These are all good stocks for sure, just for long terms and the thing, but especially when you start talking about crypto stocks, and this is the reason I've been continuously doing these Bitcoin videos, is nothing, because really, I mean, if we're being honest, not that many people watch them, honestly. I'm not doing it for the views. It's more so just to like keep myself on track and know where Bitcoin is, because if you look at all of these, they're just following the same path that Bitcoin is. So like I'm looking at even the MACD right now that you got up on the screen. So we see Bitcoin had this peak right after the election, kind of in November, and we had this super 4-month drawdown. Well, actually, I think it peaked in January, right after the inauguration. But Bitcoin peaked after the inauguration. Then we had this long drawdown. But now we see, all right, well, the MACD is now coming back up too. So like that's bullish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's really bullish. And then like we said, since this is a crypto company, Bitcoin's performance absolutely has an effect on it. So now that we see like Bitcoin pumping and whatnot, I mean Coinbase is honestly outside of GameStop is probably my favorite stock in the stock market right now. I think they're going to do amazing things over the next 4 years because, like you said, out of all the exchanges in America, they have been chosen as the sweetheart. Like it's even if you don't believe in them as a company, you got to believe that everyone else believes in them at this point.
Exactly. And even if you don't believe in Bitcoin specifically, the thing about Coinbase is they benefit from everything crypto in terms of fees, all these other coins that are available, custodial service, just so many things. So I think that might be the reason why Coinbase is the least correlated. So like if you see Bitcoin run up 10% today, Coinbase is going to move the least in comparison to those other ones. Like the ones that would actually move the most would be the miners like Marathon and Riot, but even more so would be like the ones that are holding crypto on their balances like MicroStrategy specifically. So I think at some point that will change, I personally think. So I think that's even more of a bullish case for Coinbase for me. So again, I'm just buying and holding for the longer run for that one specifically. And I have a not small, like a mid-size like options contract. Because again, I think this could break back above this 200 moving average with all these like news and things going around it. So that's my personal thought there. But the biggest one that I'm personally in on in terms of options contracts would be MicroStrategy. And I'm just confirming that's correct. Yeah, so I have about like 12,000 there in this one. And it's been insane. Like this is the one. There's so many things I like about MicroStrategy. It's actually funny. It's actually the best performance stock in my long-term portfolio. Like beating out Nvidia, beating out you name it, CrowdStrike, things like that. So I have very strong opinions about MicroStrategy. If you see here, it's broken through a very key level here around 365, which was a strong support once it came up and ran up. It's broken out of this downtrending line here and it's consistently moving up. There's no sign of it slowing down, both on the MACD, the price chart itself. The only two things I'm somewhat concerned about is one, it is overbought right now if you look at the RSI, and two, the earnings multiple. It doesn't show up here on things, but if you go to like Yahoo Finance, the earnings multiple is crazily insane, which is basically, or the P&E ratio, which is I think it's about 486, meaning that the price is about 486 times more than what it's actually earning. Again, that might change at some point if they start staking a Bitcoin and things like that, and that could possibly be super bullish. But just with the way Bitcoin is running, if Bitcoin doesn't lose steam, I can see MicroStrategy running back up to this peak here, 543, and that will be a point where, okay, this is definitely where I should like start taking profits and things like that. But again, I go off of clear signals on when to get in and out. So far, my position, where is it? I think so far this position is, it doesn't say what percentage it is, but so far I'm up on this position, probably like 30%. So I'm just watching that because again, that's beyond my profit target. So I'm just watching for clear confirmations of signs to get out. And for me, one of my favorite ones is 3 consecutive red candles. But again, even in the after hours is running up based off all the news going on. I don't know if y'all saw that US-China trade deal just got what's called. They just made an official deal. So literally everything is up. Futures are up right now. Everything's up right now.
That happened. That happened just recently.
It literally just happened. Well, it happened today and today. So U.S. and China met in Switzerland over the past 2 days.
I did see that.
China confirmed, Postal Service confirmed, hey, they have agreed to a trade deal. Rumors are saying that they're going to both U.S. and China are going to bring the tariffs down to 0% completely and talk about all this stuff. So like the whole markets are insanely bullish right now. Futures are all up at least 1 to 2%. Like,
okay, well look, that actually makes me that's actually bullish for everything too.
Everything is going up tomorrow.
I was going to say, which adds even more fuel to the fire with GameStop too, because I told you like any type of catalyst, well-timed catalyst could do something crazy.
Exactly. So everything's like this is literally overnight. So it closed at 4:15 on Friday. This huge candle is literally just off the news of the trade deal that between U.S. and China. It's already at 424, about to break this high here. So I think this week is going to be extremely bullish for everything. So for me, I'm honestly just going to hold this until I see like a very strong move down, or on the 30-minute candle I see a three 3 consecutive red candles. That's always my time to like, okay, this is the time. Okay, your whatever winning position you're in is probably gonna pull back. Get out. So this is gonna be like my signals, like right here. Like say normally it's not like right here, it's like up here above this center blue line. So like once it's pushing against these Bollinger Bands and I see 3 red candles, I'm getting out. But again, I think this is going to keep running honestly through May, but it's more so just to protect my capital. Because again, I've switched to a status of like, hey, I want to protect my capital as much as possible. But this is probably my biggest, or not my biggest crypto related position. But what I think might run up the most this week based off everything I'm holding, or maybe the third actually QBTS. I'm very bullish on right now. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Can you go to Sailor Tracker on whatever browser, or maybe I'll share it, but because I agree, I'm super fucking bullish on MicroStrategy and all things. I mean, honestly, my portfolio over the next like couple of years is literally, and let me see if I can share this real quick, because this is something I was looking at today during my forecast. Was the Sailor Tracker and what he's been doing lately, and just kind of where his money has been allocated over the. I mean, obviously it's been allocated to Bitcoin, but like where did he go in with size? So and it lists because he tweets every time that he puts something.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This is all the ones since 2021, all the buys. You have buy here. He bought all the way up and really ran up in 2021, but he didn't stop. Like, when he just dollar cost average, like, and never dollar costed out. Like, he never sold. So, 2022, and when everything's down, like, it's the cheapest Bitcoins ever is going to be like, 12K and whatnot. He's buying all the way here. And you can see, so yeah, these are the buys over time. And then we look at where did he start accumulating Bitcoin? All right, so Bitcoin over time. So, he's probably at a pretty even clip here, just kind of buy here or whatnot. But then you see he really picked up, like, over the last couple of years and going into inauguration, like his stack went from doubled. Like his stack literally doubled from about here to here, where now he's got like 550,000.
And the best part is he actually lowered his cost basis like by buying from like that 74,000 level.
He did.
So it's gotten a lot better.
And then the other cool thing about this chart too, and that's the thing, like, I obviously use the technical analysis and all the other stuff, but I definitely believe in using all the data that you can. So we see, like, even with this, like, you can see, like, this was just the normal dots, the how many sized in Bitcoin that he had. So this is like, how many Bitcoin did he buy? The bigger the circle, the more Bitcoin he bought at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So you see like a whole bunch of buying here in the lows, the COVID lows, and then, running up. This is, I mean, around here, I mean, this is conviction right here. Like this is absolute conviction, and knowing that, like, what's going on. So now we see at this point, Bitcoin is not about to slow down. Like, it's not about to slow down by any means. So it's like, again, if you got in all the way over here, all right, this is gonna look like child's play in about a year or two. And like he'll just have that permanent, like you said, his cost basis, it'll be so much lower than what the actual price of Bitcoin ends up being. Oh yeah, let's see what his cost basis is. His cost basis right now is 70K. Even with all of this, billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars, his cost basis is going to be 70K. Will Bitcoin ever get down to 70K again? Fuck no. There's no way, because it couldn't do it here, and it's only going to get more popular over time. So, I mean, at this point, like, if it couldn't break 70, if it couldn't even break 75 here, and I mean, and then the other thing is too, if you really look at it, 75 is a hard level, because like it, even if you go back to it reached about 69, 70, somewhere over here in the last bull run. But if you draw like a zone between like 65 and let's say 75, that's a big zone right here that it's just not going to be very easy to break back below that. So his cost basis is just so much lower than anything that Bitcoin could even reasonably get back down to. So yeah, no, he's good. That's why he's not worried about it. He's talking his stuff because he's pretty much locked in.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's that. And to me personally, because of that cost basis is so low now, like this little justification for people that are saying, oh, there's not really any profit from this. It's like it's clear, like Bitcoin is not coming down that low anytime again. So regardless of the next however long it takes, like he's going to be in profit based off his holdings. So
Yeah.
let him find out a way to monetize that at some point too. That will send the stock going up. But I'm confident like MicroStrategy won't fall below whatever that price level it's at right now. So I plan on holding MicroStrategy. I don't plan on adding any more like shares of MicroStrategy. I might trade and like get income from that, like off the options call. But like the amount of MicroStrategy I don't want to get more of that because of again it is a crazy multiple. But yeah, I am really bullish on that stock too.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's a Bitcoin proxy really at this point. Like, could you say like, their PE ratio is so messed up because like they don't make any revenue really. Like they don't sell anything. They don't do it. They're just literally at this point a Bitcoin company. And Bitcoin in and of itself, until they get into until they revolutionize their company or do some type of banking or something, with Bitcoin, and that's not outside the question either. Like, like there's forward thinking stuff, but yeah, their PE ratio is going to be crazy because again, they don't make anything. They're just holding Bitcoin and eventually they're going to do something with it. I'm confident they're going to do something with it eventually, maybe after this run.
Exactly.
But yeah, for now, they're just going to eat off of the volatility and the price appreciation.
Agreed. So I'm gonna be paying attention to if there's something they do with that, like either loaning or staking or whatever it is. That would also be super huge. But yeah, that's pretty much my perspective on just crypto stocks, crypto in general. I've just been buying like my top 5 picks in crypto, pure crypto itself, and just staking as much as I can.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's all I had for real. I know we started talking about GameStop, but no, this is a good discussion too. Just looking at it because I'm genuinely I'm being honest. Like those are literally the stocks that I'm looking at too. Because I'm looking at payment systems, like you said, Square. I'm looking at any crypto related stock to be able to do that. Like you said, the platforms. I think I made videos on quite a bit of those too. But yeah, IBIT and the GBTC, like you said, the financial advisors, they will be funneling money into that. Because realistically, people aren't going to self-custody Bitcoin. It's just too much of a hassle. Like the people with if you're just now getting into Bitcoin, you're probably not going to self-custody. They're going to funnel people into these managed funds that approximate Bitcoin, but they just get a fee off of it.
Yeah, which I think I'm fine with personally. That's why I've been adding to
I'm 100% fine with that.
Through my 401k that I can't pull money out of, and again, I'm still putting my own personal money separately from like some of the profits from like my options trade. I just use it to buy cryptos solely on my Ledger wallet. But yeah,
no, 100%.
But yeah, any question? I know Chico asked the question, but anything else? I do have to hop to another call.
Yeah, no,
I do appreciate this call, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm all good on my end. You said you had seen as far as that like the US China deal like is more so like going to be approved or so like they're going to come to like terms or something.
It's officially been approved. Like
that's crazy. Yeah.
Okay. I know that was a big one right there.
Yeah. No,
okay.
Insane this week. Yep.
Yeah, okay, I got you. I have no questions on my end. Honestly, I just appreciate any kind of like extra information I get because I'm fairly new to like the options, future, all that kind of like more extensive like investing side of the market. But yeah, appreciate it for sure.
Bet.
All right, y'all. Have a happy Mother's Day, to your moms or whatnot, and we'll talk later.
Yeah, for sure. Good one.
All right, take care.
All right, peace.